Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Enough to Keep Going Weekly Games podcast. Hey, what's up, everybody? This is episode number 205. It is our deep dive format, so if you're not familiar with the show, we go alternating weeks, so every other week we talk about our gamer experiences, our GX show, and talk about all the games that we played for the last 2 weeks. In the weeks in between, we do a deep dive on industry news. That is this week right here. I am one of your co-hosts, Game Logic on Twitch. Here with me, I have... You guys are weird because your cameras in Discord are different than they are in the live stream. So here with me, I have Tao Master. How you doing, Tao?
I am doing well, thank you.
And over here to my right... Wait, no, that's not where he is. He's actually down below me on the screen. I have Mr. Swissguard. How you doing, Swiss?
I am also well.
Great to hear. So without much further ado, let's get started once I get my screens rearranged so I can actually look at the agenda. It's a bit herky-jerky. We're doing some new stuff this week, so things are a little bit trying. Let's get started with a discussion of releases and news around releases. Destiny 2 crossplay will be coming in Season 15. And actually, I'm going to let Swissguard talk about this section, if you don't mind, Swiss.
Yep. So they've announced for Season 15, finally getting Destiny 2 crossplay. I believe they announced that way back on the roadmap, when they kind of started charting out their own destiny, so to speak, once they left Activision Blizzard. But
Boo.
I'll be here all night, kind of. I'm also watching Walmart right now to see if I can get a PS5 while I'm on the show. But anyway, so it's finally coming. Which okay, that's great. Stadia, PS5, Stadia, PlayStation, Xbox, and PC. I'll be able to play together. But there's some caveats because once you kind of start intermixing, it's like, okay, what does will my Steam name work playing with the guy that also happened to grab it before me on Xbox Live or whatever? So they're gonna do Bungie names, which this whole entire article from GameStop is talking about the Bungie name basically and how that's all gonna work in the roster. And there's one little bit about how it actually will play, gameplay wise, between the different things. So it sounded like a lot of a pain in the neck, in my opinion. But I've also soured on Destiny 2 in recent months, so it might just be my bitterness rising to the surface again. But basically, as they should, they have de facto said PC Master Race, and if you're a PC player, you're only going to be matched up PvP with other PC players. If you join a fire team with friends that are on the console, you do not get to jump into the console pool. You will drag your friends into the PC pool to get slaughtered. So, yeah, that's coming. I'm curious, Game Logic, how excited you are about this, because you have 1,500 versions of Destiny 2.
If I could stand up, I would do the Triple H, X, right? Yeah, there's very... So, as I read this article, my problem with this is the policies that are being enacted seem to yield far more questions than answers to anything. So they're now going to have you do a Bungie name, where I'm like, isn't that what we had when we were on BattleNet, right? and then what I don't understand is why the convoluted chicanery of it's a merge between your Bungie name plus your display name plus numerals. I'm like,
But then they don't want it. they don't want it too long, so they're gonna shorten it. And then
On
it's like, but
consoles.
what if you shorten it and it comes out like weird?
Right, and then Steam names allow for special characters, so they're not gonna allow that. And then, like you said, so then they're gonna put out supposedly, theoretically, this draconian regime to prevent the application of inappropriate names. But you may wind up with an inappropriate name by the result of them truncating. Right, you're like,
Right.
and I'm like, Call of Duty has done this, right, since whenever they made the jump, right, from Steam to the battle to the BattleNet launcher, and I'm like, they seem to have created an ecosystem that doesn't have this problem. So I don't really get it. Like, they just had everybody get an Activision name and then link that account to your console, and then people look you up by your Activision name. And look, around the Call of Duty community, we just say, hey man, tell me what your Activision name is so I can find you. Right? I don't care what your Xbox name is or your PlayStation name is, or it just seems this very Byzantine, find
Yeah.
the lost ark,
It was like, I mean, I guess if it sounded to me like it would effectively be that, but I don't know why it seemed so, like they just went on and on about all the requirements. It's like, man, Bungie, you spent a lot of time thinking about this. But
right.
whatever.
And then I don't know that I'm completely happy with what they're doing with PC. Like, it just seems like, again, and granted, I haven't thought it through thoroughly and like written things down and like done like pros and cons and drawn my Wacky the Flash diagram trying to figure out who killed his mom up on the corkboard with all the string and yarn connecting all the points. Like, but again, I go back to Call of Duty does this, and all I know is that it appears highly janky in comparison to that model, right? I mean, again, they put PC players in the pool. Console players can elect to enable crossplay, or you choose not to. And lots of console players choose not to enable crossplay on Call of Duty because of the cheating, right? And the problem with anti-cheat on PC. So I also see a great deal of console players who religiously watch the lobby box, and if a PC player shows up, immediately drop out of the match. Right? So I don't know. And then again, I mean, lots of Destiny 2 gets played PvE. So the need
That's what I was gonna jump into. Is like that's what I liked best about Destiny 2 was the co-op stuff. So I guess this will cater to that. Like, but you'll be. I mean, if you decide like, hey, we're gonna go do some, whatever missions, grind a little bit, and then you decide I want to do some like Gambit or Crucible. If you're a console player, you're out of luck. Like, they're not gonna. You can play with your friends in the relaxed modes, but it's not going to be fun playing with your friends in the competitive stuff.
And then what I really don't get is the exception for Stadia. So if I want to get around this whole thing, I'll just play on my Stadia account on a PC, utilize my mouse and keyboard, and be given the same advantages that I would have playing on PC, and actually make myself more competitive because now I'm going to get thrown in the console player pool. Right, and I get it. I mean, I think Call of Duty has gone away from a lot of this because they've realized that, like, and I feel sorry for them. I guess there are console players that can't use mouse and keyboard, and so they're equally competitive against a mouse and keyboard player on their controller. I guess I don't know. I know I'm way better on mouse and keyboard than I am on controller, but I guess they've decided that it all comes out in the wash, and so they don't get as wrapped around the axle about this. When they go to League play, and this is what this Bungie system in a lot of ways feels like, in Call of Duty League play it's different. I think in Call of Duty League, well, in official tournaments they require everybody, in the esports leagues they require everybody to play on controller. I don't know what they do in actual League play. Do you, Tao?
No, I don't know if they make them like just play on one controller or PC or keyboard or mouse or not. I'm not sure.
Yeah. It just seems highly convoluted. The thing that really sticks in my craw is the exception for the Stadia players. Like, I don't understand that at all. It's just
It's got to be anti-cheat something or other. But I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what the cheat ecosystem is on Stadia.
I don't know. The Stadia thing just feels like an assumption, a presumption to me that it seems presumptuous that they're assuming that most Stadia players, and probably granted, most Stadia players will probably play on their controller and be playing on a tablet or a phone, or on their TV. But if you play Stadia beamed to a PC, then again you can use mouse and keyboard. So I don't really know why. I don't know.
Can't you technically use mouse and keyboard on the Xbox? Or I know certain games can, but I don't know if Destiny you can.
On Destiny you can.
You can.
It is a stinking travesty, right? I don't know why that choice was made. I was angry as a Wolverine when I did the test to hook up my mouse and keyboard after playing for months mouse and keyboard on Call of Duty to see if it worked on Destiny, just for it to accept no input. So, but then the other thing is there are tons of PC players who play with controller, because there are tons of streamers who play on PC for no other reason than it just makes economical sense, right? That if they got to have to get the best stream, they have to have a streaming PC, like they have to move from just streaming straight from their Xbox or whatever. And so lots of streamers build a gaming PC basically for no other reason than to stream from it. But then they make the shift to gaming on PC because they're like, I gotta buy a PC anyway. But they can't make the transition to keyboard and mouse, so they play with controller. So I see lots of streamers playing Call of Duty on a gaming PC, but still playing on controller because they can't make the transition. So I'm like, I think, and the same is true for the Destiny community. So I don't know. I don't get it. It's a lot of rules for nothing. Sorry, that's one of our stories tonight that sticks in my craw.
Well, can I just say, and I'm gonna, it's gonna come from out of nowhere, from left field. I was actually pretty excited about this, to be honest with you, just because I'd be able to actually play with all of you. Like maybe this would be one of these games where we can all play together, because we all have different systems. Well, I mean, you Game Logic, you have like pretty much all of them, but some of the other ones only have like a couple. I don't have a PS4, or I still have Stadia, but I don't use it, so. I was actually pretty excited, so I'm gonna say that I'm gonna end this on a high note on that one. So,
I think the E2KG crew, to be quite honest, I think the E2KG crew can do absolutely that, Tao, and I think we'll be fine because we play co-op. I mean, predominantly. Right. We've played a little bit of Gambit, but like if we get the crew together, we're probably going to be playing co-op, and so I think we'll be largely fine.
Yeah, and I know I think you and DB, we all did it that one time. I think on Xbox, and that I had a lot of fun.
Yeah,
which I hadn't had a lot of fun in Destiny for a long time before that time. So
yeah, we should definitely.
That was fun. I did enjoy that.
We should definitely do that. I mean, the curious thing in the question and the thing to see is whether or not finding each other across platforms is going to be seamless.
Yeah, no, but I get that. Like. When I was first reading it, I was like, this bunch of name. Okay, I was like, okay, cool, bunch of name, and then they're like display name and numeric ID. Like, why didn't you just do a numeric ID and call it a day? Like, I don't understand that. Which kind of I think what Call of Duty does. I think. Well, I remember correctly.
With Call of Duty, you pick an Activision name and then they append a randomized number to the end of it. So, like when I got my Activision ID, of course, is normal. Like nobody has my standard gamer tag because it's not something that most people choose. And that's what most people, identify me as. They don't say the name and the random number, right? But from an ID perspective, you show up with the random number behind it. Swiss, do you want to continue briefing the releases, or are you busily hawkishly working Walmart? And if that's the case, then I can ask Tal to talk it.
I'm trying to do the press and holds, but it's not getting to my cart.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, not at all. This is news unfolding right in real time. So
you want to jump to the Xbox one? I can do that.
Yeah. Go ahead, Tal, please.
All right. So the next story here is just Game Pass releases that are going to be coming up, and actually a lot of these actually have already come out. This is from Xbox Wire. Xbox is like news site. So they had just like thrown out a bunch of games that are be coming out soon. And I'll just kind of go through them real quick. Curse of the Dead Gods, which actually has already come out on August 5th. Dodgeball Academia, and that's another one that came out August 5th. That one looks actually, I thought I had seen something about that not too long ago, and I completely forgot about it until I saw this again. But I think I might actually I actually already installed that one, or at least I did it through the app, so hopefully it installed.
Okay. And that one's also on Nintendo Switch, which is where I've been stalking it.
Oh, nice. Oh, I didn't see that was on for Switch. Okay. Well, but it's on Game Pass, so I got to use my Game Pass. We got Katamari Damacy Reroll, also August 5th. Lumens, I think that's how you say that. Remastered, August 5th.
Luminous.
Luminous? Okay.
Yeah, it's a weird one. Yeah.
Puzzle and action game. I got Skate and Skate 3, which I thought Skate 3 was already on there. I might have actually bought that beforehand. Maybe I had bought it. Because I know I had been playing it beforehand, but I must have just bought it, just when it was on sale or something. But you got both of those that came out.
So I want to hold up here on this. So as we're going through this list, also on this article over on Xbox Wire, they are also identifying what platforms you can play them on. So what specific variant of Game Pass applies. The thing that jumped out at me is Skate 3, they list as cloud, and it's the only platform they list. Do you know any other games on Game Pass that are only available via Xbox Cloud Gaming? That seems really strange to me.
Yeah, I've seen a few, but I can't remember offhand right now that I've only seen for cloud. And a lot of times when I see that, I actually see when it's actually leaving for the month. I think this might have been the first time I actually saw when it's coming in on the cloud. So I don't know if that changed for those other games, as it was on the system, on Game Pass, or if they were always on there and I just didn't notice it. But yeah, that is kind of weird that you just see the cloud for that one. So, I'm not sure. But yeah, I mean, like I said, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I did a search for cloud to look at it, and one of the things that popped up was Grand Theft Auto 5 cloud and console, but it's leaving August 8th. Kind of more interested in the games that are leaving the service than I am.
That's why I think I was kind of the same way. That's why I kind of remember seeing some games that just had cloud, but not coming in. We got Starmancer. I never heard of that. It's actually a game preview game. That one is just for the PC. It's come for August 5th. That already came out.
So again, and I'm going to comment on this one. So this is and it's weird that they don't I mean, with all the marketing and the hoopla, right, and buzz around Game Pass, as far as I can tell, the way this is listed here, it appears to be a game preview that you can only access, not only, but that you gain access to because you have a Game Pass subscription, which seems to me like we've talked about using Game Pass as kind of a demo or a trial service. It just seems like there would be more. If this is the only way that you can get to an early access version of the game, or a key way that you get an additional benefit that you get from the value of having your Game Pass subscription, I would just think that there would be a little more trumpeting around it. But it just said kind of here with a shoulder shrug. So I thought that was interesting.
They kind of just threw it out there with everything else.
Right.
Yeah. Art of Rally, which the first time I saw this game was on the Switch. I think one of their Indie World showcases that's coming for August 12th, actually today, for cloud, console, and PC. This one actually looks kind of cool. I kind of like it. It's kind of isometric racing game, rally game. So.
Yeah, I don't know if I got a chance to talk about this on the GX show, but I actually have this game on PC, and it is it can overstay its welcome. It's kind of a like penny arcade approach kind of game. It's something that I don't mind booting up and playing for an hour at a time. But it because it doesn't have the depth of a Dirt Rally 2.0. Hint, foreshadowing. It just kind of I can only play it for but so long. But it is very cool and neat for the time that you do put into it.
I was going to look it up, but was this didn't happen to be like an Apple arcade game, did it? That you know of?
I don't.
It kind of has that art to it, because there's kind of a certain art that I see with some of those Apple arcade games, and that kind of reminds me of this.
Yeah, I don't think it's Apple Arcade, but I believe this is also on Nintendo Switch.
Yeah.
So it's in a lot of places, and it's incredibly inexpensive. So that's another reason why even if you don't buy the game, it being available on Game Pass is just huge. So I would give it a spin, so to speak.
Another one that's actually was already out on other systems, Hades, the roguelike dungeon crawler. That's on cloud, console, and PC. That's coming out tomorrow.
And in some cases, in a lot of publications, the 2020 Game of the Year. So,
yep,
big deal.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of excited for this one too because I did want to play this one. I just never got around to buying it on the Switch, so it's kind of nice that I'll be able to play it on here. And then Microsoft Solitaire Collection Premium Edition on PC, August 17th. So for you card aficionados, I don't
like. I get it. We're kind of sort of still in a pandemic. There couldn't be any release more poignant at this specific point in time than Solitaire. But
right.
To put that on Game Pass, I don't. Whatever. Like, if you have a PC, don't you get it for free anyway?
Yeah, you
This
should.
is the premium edition.
That's right. It's got like different backgrounds and stuff and card decks.
It doesn't have it. It doesn't have ads.
It's got microtransactions and a battle pass.
That's right. You get daily challenges and there's competitive events. So I mean,
I like discover why millions around the world have loved this timeless classic for over 31 years.
That's right.
So does the premium edition have the thing where like the cards kind of pop out and bounce?
Like bounce around? Yeah. Otherwise, they just disappear. You don't get the animation. And then we go into something what Game Logic was foreshadowing. EA had they had bought Codemasters not too long ago, so they have thrown some of their racing games up on EA Play, which in turn now we get on Game Pass. So you got Dirt 4, Dirt Rally 2.0, F1 2020, and then Grid, which is all different type of racing games. Game Logic. Have you played all of these or some of them?
I have played and own all of these.
Oh, okay.
So if there's a Codemaster subscription, I should probably just definitely go ahead and buy it because I think it's just along with I should probably be paying for the Ubisoft one as well because I give them a healthy amount of money each year too. Travesty on this one as well. This is apparently only on console. Like these games live and their heart breathes on PC. So if it's part of the business model to say, hey, if you're on PC and you really want like all that racing goodness, right? You're just gonna have to pay for it, maybe. But otherwise, like I'm like, why in the world would you not make this available on PC? But I don't know. Maybe it's a game of keep away. I'm not sure.
Is Grid is that a different type of racing than the Dirt series, or is it just similar? Yeah, I don't remember.
It is. Yes, it's. There are rally events in Grid, but yes, they are discrete. So if we want a quick rundown of them, so the Dirt series is the series that started off as Colin McRae rally racing, like way back in like the early 2000s, and it started on PC and has migrated to console, and now comes out on both platforms, and they do a TikTok kind of release pattern where one version of Dirt is, and now they're discreetly called Dirt and Dirt Rally. For a while, they were just all called Dirt, and they went to this mode for a couple of years where there were one release would be the arcadey, gymkhana like kind of stuff, and then another one would be like the hardcore simulation, and they would go back and forth with that. And now they've broken them out to where there's Dirt and Dirt Rally. F1 is what it is. Same thing again. Like in Grid, I'm pretty sure there's Formula. I think there's Formula events in Grid, but Grid is kind of like it's a Need for Speed kind of multi-racing kind of survey racing sim along the lines of like a Forza kind of thing. It's got some discrete differences, but you can play in a lot of different classes, and they have a specific way that you build your team and structure your team, and it has seasons. And so at one point, I think when Grid first came to consoles, the big claim to fame was the season ended with the 24 hours of Le Mans, and you could actually configure that race to actually run for 24 hours. And so that event capstoned every season. And so you really can kind of go through more of like a career-oriented progression than you can in most other racing games. So sorry.
Have you ever, to jump into a GXC question, have you ever done that event?
I did it, yeah. So I had so back on the Xbox 360, I had a really strong, steady crew of Xbox Live gaming friends, and a specific crew that was really big into racing games. And so yes, we did that at the end of every season, but we did not. I didn't run it for 24 hours. We would set it. I think maybe at most in online mode, we ran it for like an hour, maybe. But yeah, I definitely did it. Just didn't do it for 24 hours.
And then there's some DLC and game updates. I'll just run through those real quick. African Royals DLC for Age of Empires Definitive Edition. Operation 8 bundle for Gears 5. Dead by Daylight Archive Tombs 8 Deliverance. We got the Containment event in Rainbow Six Siege, which is going until the 24th. And I think that has like kind of like skins and that kind of stuff come that are kind of directly related to Rainbow Six Containment that's coming out, I believe, this year, right? I think it's still coming out this year. Or no, that was pushed back, wasn't it? Or is that just pushed back? Like
no, I think, and I'm not a deep Rainbow Six Siege person. I'm sure there's somebody out there who's, listening to the podcast, giving us the well, actually. But I think I want to say this is the thing. This is the actual in Rainbow Six Siege event that links to Rainbow Six, that sets the stage for Rainbow Six Extraction from a lore perspective. I think that's what's going on. So I think the Containment event is, because they talk about this having the Chimera Parasite in it, which again I think is the enemy in Extraction. So I think this sets the stage. So even though Extraction has been delayed, they're apparently going forward with the main game, core game event anyway.
Okay. All right. And then we got Snapper Elite 4 update, which is an update to the Series X and S, so you get 4K at 60 frames per second. Zombie Army 4 Left 4 Dead 2 character pack.
So sorry, I know this segment is taking up longer than planned, but I just want to go back to the Sniper 4. So I've had events happen this week, right, with regards to how upgrades are being handled on next-gen consoles and which ones you're having to pay for and which ones you're not. This is very interesting, again, because it's a XS optimization update that is available on Game Pass, and in specific in the Microsoft ecosystem, we've seen instances where a game has come to Game Pass, but it has been its Xbox One variant, and so you didn't get access to the actual XS version. So it's pretty neat that you're getting the full-blown version in this case, I guess. Now, what I'm not clear on in this is this if you have Sniper 4... If you paid for Sniper 4 Elite and you're an XPass subscriber, you get a free update? Or is this saying that Sniper 4 Elite is on Game Pass? Which it is. I'm pretty sure it is. And if you're on XS, then you also get the update for free. So it'd be interesting to go back and pull that apart to see what it is. This has come up this week because the Hellblade Senua's Sacrifice, which I know is near and dear to your heart, Tao, is getting a free update, but it's only going to XS owners. It is not going to PlayStation owners. And some PlayStation owners were up in arms about that. I respect that opinion and I see that perspective, but I kind of look at it like PlayStation owners dangle exclusives in the faces of Xbox like every 5 minutes. So I mean, to me, this is just par for the course, and it's business. I mean, why in the world am I going to invest the software labor effort that goes into creating an upgrade on a disparate platform that I would have to program for and deploy, where I basically have zero opportunity to gain any return customers out of that?
Making sense game logic.
Sorry.
This is about pride here. Console pride.
That's right. What about the Switch? It's on the Switch.
Is it on the Switch as the cloud? Is that one of the cloud enabled games? Is that the only way?
No, I believe that's just like a
running native
game.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, I saw that reference in the way. Yeah, I mean, there's no way the Switch's hardware would run that update. So.
I was just kidding. And then finally, on a somber note here, Forza Motorsport 7 is leaving the stores and Game Pass. If you have it, you bought it, you can still play it. along with the DLC, but you won't be able to buy the game itself or the DLC going forward.
So this is another interesting one. So what they're, I mean, help me out if so I think what they're saying here is, so what they say is, if you played the game on Game Pass, so you played it for free, but you bought DLC for the game, but not the game, it says specifically not the game itself, you're going to get a token for the game, as far as I can tell, so that you, so people who have the combination of an Xbox Game Pass subscription plus have spent any amount of money in the game are going to get the game for free.
That's what I read, yeah.
Yeah.
Which seemed kind of weird.
It's an old game, but I mean, it's a big honking racing survey sim with like hundreds of cars in it. So
yeah,
not a horrible deal for the price of your subscription.
No, yeah, that's a pretty nice. And that was the last Forza, right? Like mainline Forza game.
Yeah, the last Forza Motorsport.
How much is the DLC run in those games? I'm sure they're not $1.
No.
I'm pretty sure at this stage there's some 99-cent DLC. Like they sell individual cars.
Yeah.
So I'll check though. Probably won't check while we're on the podcast because I think you have to hit the Microsoft Store to see those. I do know that I want to say there is 99-cent DLC for single cars because I want to say there are car packs that are $4.99 where you get 3 to 5 cars. So, but yes, press on. I will double check.
Okay. Well, I was gonna stop there because then you just have the Xbox Pass Ultimate Perks, which is just kind of in-game stuff you can get for Apex, Phantasy Star Online 2, and Rogue Company. So I'll just stop it there.
Okay. I'll just tack on a few interesting notes to the end of that, of the stuff that you're not going to know. So for Xbox Game Pass Quest, the Star Wars Battlefront 2 for 2,500 gamer points. Really strange. I guess people are still playing that game sufficiently for you to rack up 2,500 gamer points in it. Okay, whatever. As Swiss mentioned, Grand Theft Auto 5 leaving the console on August 8th. So not a bad move by Rockstar, given that it sounds like there could be a Grand Theft Auto remaster in progress or some intention to roll out a different content. I will mention Ape Out leaving on August 15th. I think that is a game that people should take advantage of trying to play before it gets off. And there's Darksiders Genesis for those who are deeply invested in the Darksiders stuff. Swish, you still on?
How did I know that you were going to skip over Final Fantasy VII?
Sorry. By all means, definitely mention. Is that the update? Is that the remake, or is that?
No,
okay.
It's just like the.
It's the old one.
Yeah, it's just the original game. Yeah, because it didn't come out for anything else. I don't think, right?
Oh,
the
right.
remake?
The new one's a PS5 exclusive.
Yeah. For now, as far as we know, because no one's ever really said.
But still, good on you for mentioning it. Catering to audiences of all interests, color and lanes and colors of flags. So, yes. Thank you very much. Those out there waving that JRPG flag. So, get on it. Swish, do you want to talk about the Diablo 2 release, or I can if you're still on Walmart?
I'm still on Walmart, but I can talk about it because I'm not going to get a console. But somebody, the Microsoft Store, for people that go there, I don't know who does, accidentally put up the Diablo 2 Resurrected Beta and then took it down. So everybody's like, woo, we know the date for the Diablo 2 Resurrected Beta. And it will be on August 17th. So we'll be able to get our hands on that soon. There's a part of me that's like excited about this because I remember back way back in the day, my brother's friend, bringing his computer to our house and setting it all up so that we could play Diablo 2. But Blizzard hasn't exactly covered themselves in glory with their remasters recently. So we'll see.
Anything.
That's true. That's the segue, folks.
That's the segue.
But so Yeah, I'm so torn on this title because while I agree with you that there was the Warcraft 3 remake, which was a big wet paper towel, but I mean, first of all, I don't really know what you have to do to Diablo 2 to really make an effective upgrade. Like, the game mechanics were fine. So if you reskin it, right, and put new texture packs in it, it should cover it. But then the my big struggle in my relationship with Diablo 2 is that while Diablo 2 was a great game, that game actually came out a summer that I was in between going from full-time grad school to going back to work. So I was actually at home in a very rare instance of actually 30 days off. And so, man, let me tell you, I played some Diablo 2. but my struggle in my relationship with this game is there were so many things about Diablo 2 that I noted as things that could be improved. And my reality is that in my world, Torchlight is a better Diablo 2. And I'm like, sure, we're remaking Diablo 2, but if I wrote a better Diablo 2 experience, I'll just go play Torchlight. So there's a piece of me that's excited about this, and there's a piece of me that's not. Very interesting. One of the things I find most welcoming in this is the upgrade to the sound profile to support Dolby 7.1 surround sound. So I felt like that game had pretty decent audio already, but rounding it out to surround sound will be a nice get. I only mentioned that because I just don't expect there to be a really improved experience from the graphical upgrades. It's an isometric, right, button mashing, pointing, mouse and click, RPG, action RPG. So I don't know how much more you can do with it. But that's cool. So, and I think the whole point of that's beta beginning this weekend, potentially?
The 17th, according to the leak. But
Yeah,
we'll see.
it's Tuesday.
But E2KG does not report on leaks and rumors. No, so, yeah, so I think...
In there.
So that leak happened at the end of July, right? Have we since gotten confirmation that the beta is this weekend?
That was the end of July that happened?
Yeah. It happened, yes, because of the 12th.
I mean, it's gotta be soon, because like the release date is September 23rd. So, I mean, I don't know. We don't have confirmation, but it stands to reason.
Okay. All right, very good. Tao, speaking of problems at Blizzard and how well they are presenting themselves these days, you want to take us through our legal briefs section?
Yes. So we have. Well, yeah, it's been a while since I've done any kind of law stuff, but this past. Actually, this is from the August 6th. Now Polygon.com is where I got this from. The Kellogg company is going to pull out their sponsorship with Blizzard, or with the Overwatch. What do they call it? Overwatch. What is it? It's called OWL, and I forgot what it stands for. Overwatch.
It's just the Overwatch League.
Just Overwatch League, right?
Yeah, OWL.
Yeah. So they prepared a statement. They had said, "We found these troubling allegations and inconsistent with our commitment to equity, diversity, and inclusion." And what they're talking about here, obviously, if you haven't read anything lately, the last couple weeks or so, is Blizzard's they're being sued by the California Department of Fair Employment and Housing for gender-based discrimination and sexual harassment within the workplace. Kind of like they say in a lot of the articles, the frat boy culture. But there's been a bunch of sponsors and big sponsors, which I didn't realize until I saw this article. Like I mentioned, Kellogg's one of them. They've pulled out at least for this year, and they're going to reevaluate their partnerships and programs for next year, or just in the future after this year. But some of the other companies were T-Mobile, Coca-Cola, and State Farm had also had pulled out their partnerships. Basically just having like marketing stuff. So like Kellogg, which is kind of what the article goes over more, they had, package branding for like, chips and Cheez-Its and, all these other kind of snacks and stuff that actually had Overwatch characters on there. And then I guess they had a Overwatch cereal which I think I remember back in 2018, loose COOs, which I think I remember seeing back in the grocery stores back in the a couple of years ago, a few years ago. But they're pulling that all out. Like I said, they stopped everything for now, and they're gonna wait to see what happens, I suppose, with the lawsuit and just everything that's going on. They do mention, they hear that the companies taking steps to to rectify these problems, but they said we're still gonna just kind of back away for now and see how it goes next year and see what's going on. So. Any thoughts on this? Does it surprise you? I guess that kind of makes sense that people are going to start kind of just backing away from this type of behavior, especially with these bigger companies. Any comments? Nothing.
No? Swiss and I are eyeballing each other to see who's going to go first.
I'm not surprised. So that's we'll see. I'm kind of, for me, like the gaming angle for me is what becomes of the Overwatch League after all of this. Again, the gaming angle, not this is just one small, relatively insignificant sliver of the story. But so having these sponsors being pulled really leaves it up in the air. Because I do remember a few years ago when they were really trying to drive Overwatch League, and it was getting press in the regular press, right? That this is happening. You're getting NFL owners sponsoring franchises, and so it was. And at the time, I recall being relatively surprised because, for me, esports hasn't really been a thing. So that business angle is kind of intriguing to me. But as far as the reaction for some of their sponsors from this, I don't. It isn't terribly surprising to me that they're pulling their ads and monitoring the situation.
So the next shoe to drop is, of course, Overwatch League, along with other Activision properties, made the shift and left Twitch last year, at the beginning of last year, and moved to YouTube. So, we know that Google is firmly in the crosshairs and in the spotlight, and is very quick to react to the placement of advertising around properties and things that people don't necessarily want to be associated with. So it'll be interesting to see what Google does and YouTube does with regards to their partnership with the Overwatch League. The impact of sponsors being pulled is sponsors contribute prize money. So as Swiss said, people who are hoping to make it or break it, as professional gamers in the esports league, and lots of those leagues have been shuttered and prize money has gone away, due to the pandemic, and this is yet just another blow. Quite honestly, what I found most interesting in this whole article is what in the flock is State Farm doing, sponsoring the Overwatch League? Not that it's a bad move, but it's if it's one thing streamers don't do, it is stinking buy insurance, right? So, I don't understand what, this is a proven, thing from streamers I have been in discussions with who have, complained about, extreme events happening in their life, and I've been research buying insurance. You depend on this for your livelihood, get it insured, right? So when your basement floods, you are... you're covered. So it's just interesting that State Farm would choose that demographic to go after. I could think of better ways to spend my advertising dollars. But yeah, it's I think other stories that have been going down that we haven't it didn't include in tonight's rundown, but several members of the Activision Blizzard staff have been let go, including former Blizzard president J. Allen Brack. It's a thing. Heads will roll, as they say. And I think this is one of those events that is kind of like a neutron bomb, and it's like, just if you're within the blast radius and have any kind of stink on you, you could very well be made out to be, a person who needs to be walked out the door just because. Not necessarily meaning that, you yourself are guilty of a particular incident, but just as the company attempts to drive, the presentation of itself that is actively doing something about these allegations before they get into a courtroom in an effort to not get into a courtroom. So, it's an interesting turn of events.
Yeah, I wonder how that works too. Like, I didn't read through like the whole court, like document and stuff. But I mean, are I guess they were just kind of going after the company itself then? Because if they'd like name individuals and all of a sudden these people are gone, like I guess they could still follow the person. And I mean, I'm not a legal person or lawyer or anything like that, so I don't know how that works. But
no, I think from I follow suit with what DBQ mentioned. I think a couple weeks ago, when you guys were briefing a legal, I think we're briefing this legal topic initially, and like with the Riot Games lawsuit. So I think this is the lawsuit against the company, and if I'll just go ahead and put it this way, right? If people weasel out of it, right, and dodge it, it leaves open the door for there to still be civil lawsuits that go after the individual if they don't gain satisfaction by going after the company. And again, I'm speculating and extrapolating a little. I think that's why you might make a move of like letting somebody like. So when Google had the dispute with, I want to say, Uber, about the guy who left Google and supposedly stole a lot of their autonomous vehicle R&D, Uber let that person go so that Google wouldn't come after Uber. And then they were like, if you want to go after the individual, like, by all means, right? So there's a point in these things where companies cut their ties, right? Because they don't want you dragging them down along with you. Okay, let's talk a little bit of hardware. Again, controversy in the crosshairs. Fast load times on the PlayStation 5 tested with the expansion SSD in the ongoing controversy. So this article we sourced from Tom's Hardware, although Tom's Hardware is actually talking about testing that was done by Digital Foundry. So in the 2.0, I think it's a beta release at this point, Sony has enabled use of the NVMe expansion slot on the PS5. And so Digital Foundry went out and grabbed, I think they grabbed a few SSDs, but the only one they reported on testing about was about their testing with the Samsung 980 Pro. Samsung has a established track record of past performance now on making some of the best SSDs in the business, both NVMe and 2.5-inch SSDs. So for the PlayStation 5 expansion port, you need an NVMe 4 or Gen 4 SSD. And so, the testing on this was, I don't want to say inconclusive, but it wasn't all roses. So there were scenarios and use cases they tested it where it performed incredibly well, performed better than the internal drive of the PS5. But there were instances where it didn't perform as well. In particular, and again, you need to decide what use cases matter the most to you. We constantly talk on this show about jotting your requirements down and figuring out what they are and evaluating your return on investment, given what your priority and your requirements are. It apparently plays really well, and the guys help me out if I mess this up, but if you put PS4 backward compatible titles on it, it outperforms the internal PS5 drive. But when you put next gen titles on it, it basically matches the PS5 internal drive at best, and in some cases will be slower. And then when you are trying to transfer games from the internal drive to the expansion drive, in this particular case with this specific drive, that actually worked really well, achieving, I want to say it was like a 1.5 gigabyte per second transfer rate, gigabit per second transfer rate. And then when you try to move the game from the expansion drive back to the internal SSD, that just had a horrible transfer, taking about 7 minutes and 18 seconds. So about a 230 megabit per second.
That was for 100 gigabytes of Cyberpunk 2077 that they tested that on.
Yeah. So I don't know if trying to move a different game would result in a different performance profile. I don't know. So so Swiss. How does this strike your fancy in terms of kind of the outcomes of this testing?
So the internal drive is like a regular it's just an SSD, right?
It is a.
I mean, I know it's a higher end, so because of the requirements for PS5 gen games. I get that, but one would anticipate that an nVMe like the 980 Pro should outperform it. Um, I am. I don't think I'm as up in arms about any of this because I'm not really going into it trying. I guess I wouldn't really be so much worried about trying to like massively boost performance with my hard drive. Like I don't have that expectation. I'm not saying it's not like, that's kind of disappointing if I'm putting a premium piece of gear in there. I'd expect some, premium performance, but my goal would just like be to expand the storage because 600 gigabytes of storage in the year 2021 is not a lot. So the fact that when I play a PS5 game, I'm not going to throw this in there and have my game drop from 60 frames a second to 20 frames a second, I'm okay with that. So the other than the obvious, like what's up with that transfer from to internal, I mean, guess like the PS5 drive is really optimized for reads versus writes or something. I don't know, but like, they speculate it might just be like a bug in the firmware. But yeah, I mean, is it great? No, but like, I'm not going to go into it with like an expectation of, tuning up my PS5, just expanding storage.
Yeah,
You do.
yeah. Go ahead, Sal.
I was just saying, in your case too. I mean, you usually don't bounce around games too much, right? Like you're not going to be transferring
No.
stuff back and forth, and
And
kind of
like we were talking
myself.
earlier, like I'm not using a lot of digital. I mean, every game requires you to install and takes up space, but generally speaking, the Switch gets a lot more diversity of games from a day-to-day basis. The PlayStation, I'm pretty much the only one playing it. Maybe so there might be maybe my kids might play a couple of games, but there's only a 1 or 2, maybe 3 game rotation in any amount of time. Like kind of like within like a month on that thing. The Switch, meanwhile, gets played like 10 different games on a daily basis. So like you said, looking at use case, like I wouldn't be as concerned.
Yeah. So to me, this falls into this crevice of, things that are not that rosy on the PlayStation platform, in my opinion. That there's just, and look, every platform has its apologists, right? This is a thing that I feel like there's a lot of apologists for. So on the PlayStation 5, and again, I have both platforms. So on the PlayStation 5, you wind up with, I think, a little over 600 gigabytes of available space. From the operating system. And on the Xbox, on the Xbox Series X, I think you have like 864 gigabytes. I don't know, Todd, does that sound right?
Sorry, I was muted. Yes, that sounds about right.
Yeah. Yeah, so the PlayStation 5 you wind up with about 670 gigs of usable space. On the Xbox, I've seen anywhere from, you have about 800 gigs of usable space. So $499 for a console that gives you 670 gigs of space isn't really a friendly approach to me. Again, but I will admit, without Xbox Game Pass, that size doesn't really bug me. I will say it is impressive that the lower price SKU, the PS5, the disc-less version, has the same storage. So when you're coming in at that $499 SKU, I feel like, or $399 SKU, then I feel like you are actually making out, right? Because you're getting the same exact storage that people buying the disc-based version are. Of course, you are more dependent on the storage because you don't have a disk drive. But as Swiss was mentioning, I think it was in the pre-show that you guys were talking that you still have to install games even if you buy the physical version. So you're using up storage space all the time. But it's not incredibly great spec positioning. In my opinion, I'm like you though, Swiss. If I were gonna buy the expansion drive, I don't think I'm gonna buy an expansion drive for my PlayStation 5. I wouldn't be wrapped around the axle about it like performing, and just the scenario of swapping a game from the expansion card back to the internal storage. I have an expansion card for my Xbox Series S. The only time I have to do that transfer is when I've made a mistake, right? And I've put it somewhere that I didn't want to put it, right? But, the whole thing about this is the expansion drives are supposed to perform the same as the internal. And so if it's on the expansion card, I'm not taking it off. I'm getting the same performance out of it that I'm getting off the internal drive. So that wouldn't make any real difference to me. The other thing that kind of sticks in my craw about this is it's just the pricing. Again, not Sony's fault, but it's just the solution that they've implemented and the market, right? And so, I'm trying to, I had this chart pulled up. I gotta find it. So just real quick on the requirements. So when you buy a third-party storage drive for this, and this is a discussion of the PlayStation's implementation versus the Xbox's. Xbox's is proprietary. Sony's is more open. You buy a PCIe Gen 4 drive, and so that's an uptick because if you buy this drive for the PlayStation, then when you are done with your PlayStation 5, you can actually reclaim this drive theoretically and put it in a gaming PC if that's something you want to do. It supports capacities of 250, 500, 1 terabyte, 2 terabyte, and 4 terabyte. The read speed's got to be 5500. I think this is supposed to be megabits per second or faster. It has a size requirement, and for those of you who lived through the time period where 2.5-inch spinning drives were two different heights, and you had to be conscious of that before you bought one that wouldn't fit inside your laptop, if that's where you were going to put it, or wouldn't fit inside your 2.5-inch hard drive cage, which was a problem that I had to work around. This is something that you want to be conscious of, and it has to have a heatsink. Now, one of the things about the heatsink is they say that it's a requirement, and they want you to have it. I'm sure that's because they feel that there's a performance profile that's going to hit. There's no way for them to detect whether it has a heatsink or not, so I don't think your PlayStation 5 is going to, genetically reject the material of your NVMe SSD if it doesn't have a heatsink. So, there's that. And you can buy...
They put a little camera inside the PlayStation 5 with picture recognition AI.
Right.
To detect the heatsink.
As I've had to be engaged in the conversation about machine learning on the PlayStation 5 on Twitter this week, but that's another dumpster fire. So it is supposed to have a heatsink. You can buy an aftermarket heatsink and put it on there. So it's got some requirements, but again, without a Game Pass, I don't really know that why I would personally need it. And there's also been much ado about what it takes to get it installed. For somebody who builds PCs, I guess this is a non-issue. It's less convenient than upgrading the hard drive on the PlayStation 4. But I also had problems with upgrading the hard drive on the PlayStation 4. Now, from a digital perspective, just because of the way their instructions were posted on their website, this is an instance where you're now out of the zone we were in on the PlayStation 3 and 4, where when you upgraded the hard drive, there was just one hard drive. So when you put that hard drive in, you were actually had to also slick the PlayStation operating system onto it. You don't have to do that here. You're just looking for it to be recognized by the already installed operating system, format the drive, and then make it available for use. So, I don't know. Like I said, there's been mention of like all the things you have to do about opening the case, and if you apply the heat. I don't think it's that big a deal, but I do think it's a thing where a lot of people are hand waving and saying, it's not a big deal, it's no problem. Like, there are people who are not comfortable with stuff. I've built PCs for 20 years, but I went through a phase where I was very bothered by the notion of putting my hands on the CPU, right? And then great Scott, like exerting the great amount of torque and pressure you have to put on a big Mongo, like 2-pound heat sink and fan assembly, right, onto this little tiny chip, right? And just being determined that there's no way it could withstand that pressure.
And the motherboard's starting to flex a little bit.
Right, yeah. So there are just people who are uncomfortable with things like this. So I don't know. It's just a thing. I'm glad that they finally, released it and implemented it, and people can do it. I don't think that I'm planning to do it. I guess the other thing I wanted to talk about, and I seem to have lost this chart, but is pricing. The pricing on these things on the market right now is they are about twice as much as a PCI Gen 3x4, which is kind of this intermediate spec bump between Gen 3 and Gen 4. They're typically the types of drives that I buy. The Gen 4 drives are basically twice as much right now. So for a 2 terabyte drive, it runs around $400, where, as someone who's going to buy a 2 terabyte drive this weekend, it's about $100 per terabyte right now. So my 2 terabyte drive is going to cost me $200. But for this thing, it's going to cost $4. So, that's a significant chunk. If you want to put a 1 terabyte drive in there and spend $200 for a skosh of additional space, you're adding $200 to the price of your $399 or $499 box. So that's a decision you got to make too. So, but that's hardware. We live it. And so let's wrap up by talking about some financials, and I'll go ahead and run through these. So we've got Sony PlayStation financials. Q1 sales are up to $5.6 billion, but operating income is down by 40%. NPD and some of the other analysts that this was sourced from believe that that's because of the operating loss that they're taking on manufacturing with the PlayStation 5. No way to equate that. I guess you could extrapolate and calculate, how much of a loss that they're taking per unit on the PlayStation 5. But I didn't punch those numbers myself. They crossed the magical 10 million line mark, I think last month, in terms of total number of units of PlayStation 5 sold. So, and then, again, a lot of the story, as it is with so many tech firms and gaming firms across the industry, is that a lot of these numbers are coming out now, and typically you look at things year over year, and 2020 was a radically up year that no one had predicted. Unfortunately, as a result of the pandemic, but the good news story is that a lot of companies benefited from it. You also have in the PlayStation platform's case, the fact that The Last of Us 2 had just come out last year, and they have no comparable title that's really been launched with the same type of sell-through power as the PlayStation 2. So, I don't know, a bunch of numbers in here, but I don't know that they're all, particularly super relevant for us to dumpster dive into. I don't know, anything particular about the story that jumped out at you guys?
No, it does make you, like you said, what has been the PS5's well, one, it's really hard to get a PS5 for people, and two, there's not really like a PS5. Like, what's the PS5 game? Miles Morales. I mean, which is like,
Yeah, and I think that game, as far as a launch title and as far as buzz about people wanting that game, has kind of waned. Now that we're out of the launch window, so I don't know. Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart definitely has a lot of cachet, but that's not like everybody's kind of game. So so I don't know. I mean, I think it's interesting to me, despite all of the dialogue that there is about PlayStation 5 and how much people love it and how much better than the Xbox it is, and how you go to PlayStation to play the exclusive titles. I think from a platform positioning right now, we're still really waiting for the arrival of Horizon, the sequel to Horizon Zero Dawn, which I think is the first really killer first party app that's on the horizon.
yeah, that's been delayed till 2022.
Yeah.
Ragnarok, pretty sure is 2022, if not later. I don't recall. So next year, I feel like is going to really tell how things shake out. I mean, we don't even have Halo Infinite yet. So
Yeah. I mean, the console is still wildly successful. But I think right now the truth of the matter is it's a console that people buy to play third party titles. I mean, there's a handful of first party titles that really move the needle, but I don't think that they are critically and artistically significant. In the grander scheme of the gaming industry. Some darling titles, absolutely. Some things that people have some very heartfelt attachment to. But in terms of heartfelt attachment to a thing that is also wildly commercially successful, we just haven't seen that convergence of a title yet. So we're still waiting. The thing I did want to talk about, I messed that up, is what's wildly unbalanced from my perspective is that they talked about their PlayStation Plus subscriber base, which is at 46.3 million. Now that's a decline from last year of 47.6, which seems to not be a great news story. It's not a big deal in terms of volume, but still the fact that you're transitioning from PlayStation 4 to PlayStation 5 and your subscriber numbers on PS Plus are going down seems to not be a really great performance indicator. The other thing that's weird to me is, and maybe undesirable from a business positioning standpoint, is the number of Xbox Live subscribers as of December of last year was 100 million active users. So, again, for the subscriber base on the competing console, that got trounced last generation to also then be wildly in the opposite direction from a subscriber base seems to not be great. But and then the number of Game Pass subscribers is 23 million. So, just
I was gonna ask, so that the first number, that's just Xbox Live, right? That has nothing to do with Game Pass, as far as you know.
Yeah, so I didn't find it because I just quickly pulled these numbers up. I didn't find again where that convergence and overlap is. Obviously, there's tons of Xbox Game Pass subscribers that are also Xbox Live Gold subscribers, and vice versa. So I'm not sure what the overlap is, but yeah, the 100 million number that I found as of December of last year was for Xbox Live or Xbox, Live Gold or whatever it is now. I don't even know what it is because I'm not consciously aware of me paying for it because I just pay for Game Pass and everything that it comes along with.
Because doesn't Game Pass that has Xbox Live Gold, right? It's all rolled into one.
Game Pass Ultimate does. So the $15 per month service has everything in it. You get Xbox Live Gold, you get Xbox Game Pass on console, and Xbox Game Pass on PC. You can subscribe to Xbox Game Pass on PC for $10 a month that does not have Xbox Live Gold in it. So if you're just a PC player and you just want Game Pass, you can subscribe to that for $10 a month. And I guess there are this weird demographic out there, people who own Xbox consoles but don't subscribe to Xbox Live. I don't know what you really use your console for at that point, but I guess they never play multiplayer, maybe. So
Probably not.
You know,
Or free play games now.
that's true. That's true because you can play for free and still play multiplayer. So yeah, it's just interesting.
That was just recently though. So
Yeah.
I mean,
Yep. On the Nintendo side, did anybody else have any other comments about Sony's earnings? Okay, on the Nintendo side, let's see. Strong Q1 results, but sales and profit falls. Again, sales and profits fall because of the lightning in a bottle year they had last year with Animal Crossing and other things. So trying to pick out of here what is uniquely and individually significant. I want to say the most significant thing that jumped out to me here was that the total sell on consoles, I want to say, was like 85 million. Did anybody?
No, it's 89 million,
Okay.
but there's 85 million in the hands of consumers. So I guess I don't know what happened to the other 4 million.
The 4 million may have been that maybe their shipped number that hasn't
Okay.
necessarily been tallied up for sales. It sounds like they glommed it all into one big group. But yeah, so 89 million, in comparison to the PlayStation 4 is probably, I assume, was at around 150 million, but it's probably a lot of those users are transitioning over to the PlayStation 5. And probably maybe half as many Xbox Ones. Maybe I think they were, I want to say numbers I most recently saw them were maybe towards 60 million. So, it's definitely a good news story. And they plan on shipping another 20.5 million consoles in the next year before the end of March 2022. So, decline in digital sales of about 25% year over year. But again, people were stuck at home. And like many of us, people just idle hands, man. You're sitting on the camped out on the couch, not able to go anywhere. You pull up your Switch, and there's just a cornucopia of digital games available. So I'm sure lots of people participated in that. But yeah, more good news for Nintendo. Not anything really here that I saw of significance that really upsets the apple cart. Anything you guys wanted to mention, or add? Go ahead.
I'm mostly just like there hasn't been like a mega Nintendo title since Animal Crossing. So, I mean, I was looking at the numbers. Mario Golf Super Rush over 1 million, which is good, but I mean it's a golf game. A Mario-ified golf game, but Mario Kart 8 is still selling like a ton. 1.69 million units, so it's up to over 37 million total. So I'm kind of curious, like we're getting to a weird point. I'm eager to see like this next phase of the Switch's lifespan, because like what's the late window key titles that we're going to see. We're hopefully, now I know we're going to get Zelda Breath of the Wild 2. Hopefully we get Metroid Prime 4. But I don't think Metroid Dread or whatever it's called, is going to move the needle. I mean, it's going to sell a lot, but it's not like doesn't feel like a Prime. I mean, it's like that, the 2D. So, title, but I'm kind of, do you think we'll get another like mainline Mario title towards the end of the cycle like we did on the Wii? So,
Well, what you guys have taught me and told me is to, as I have studied at the feet of the Nintendo Masters, is not to expect two versions of a major mascot game and IP on a singular Nintendo generational platform. So, as far as I understand,
we got Galaxy and Galaxy 2. But You're right. No, typically that's not. I mean, Majora's Mask was good too.
Yeah, you get one or two, but you can't.
Right.
But not to expect like every major. You know,
You're not getting a bi-yearly franchise.
yeah, that you're not going to see two of them. So again, I think back to this weird thing of Nintendo saying that they're not going to release another console, but I'm like, buy your guys. So I want to say this is going to be a little speculation, but I'm trying to learn this whole thing. I want to say we've said, in contrast to some of the other like Nintendo is a hardcore software company, right? More so than Sony and Microsoft in the case that, as far as what I've seen and have understood from the Nintendo culture, when Nintendo goes to launch, right, when Xbox, especially Xbox, when Microsoft goes to launch a new console, in all the E3 coverage and all that, we see the hardware engineers come up out of the woodwork, right? Because they're unfortunately not celebrated and really pushed to the front of the camera, right, during the normal life cycle of the console, but they all kind of rise to the forefront. When Nintendo goes to launch a console, we see the software guys who are put in charge of the hardware project, and then they're given hardware engineers for the period of time that it takes them to engineer the new console. But as far as what I've seen, it's still a software-led company. And so their software life cycle, as you mentioned, Swiss, follows a very deterministic kind of, not necessarily a pattern, but has exhibited certain behaviors that kind of tell you what their software production behavior model is going to be. And so by interpretation of that model, they have to be launching new hardware. Right? Like
within a couple of years, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they've expended all rounds from the software barrel that we're accustomed to seeing in a single hardware life cycle. So by definition of past history, they have to be getting ready, right, to go to a new hardware set of some type. You know, even if it's a hardware upgrade.
Do you want to get really?
Yeah.
You want to get really crazy? Okay. What happened at the end of the GameCube life cycle? That was when they released Twilight Princess. They released it on the GameCube, but it sold better on the Wii, where they also released it. What happened? You may not I mean, a lot of people don't remember this. Breath of the Wild is a Wii U title. Like, you can buy like that. It's so where are we getting Breath of the Wild 2? You know, so it's it just I'm looking forward to the last big hits, but like you said, I don't see this stretching out too many more years. And they always kind of do something different. So it's always, at least with Nintendo, with their hardware, it's like, you know, it could be really awesome, it could be a flop, but they're gonna have fun. I mean, they're gonna experiment with it. We'll see.
Yeah, I don't want to give more fuel to the fire of like the hardware upgrade rumors, but again, if we just look at their software cycle, like something like that has to be burbling and on the horizon.
Yeah. And I really think that they're probably very happy with their position as far as like relative to the other guys with their dual purpose, like portable and dockable console. Like that, I think they finally they were able to merge. Like, I think we talked about this back in 2017 when the Switch was launching, and we're like, what's going to happen to 3DS? It's probably going to phase out. I mean, look at Metroid Dread. That's like a perfect example of the crossing of the streams for their stuff. So.
Yeah, and before I let Tal jump in, so and correct me if I'm wrong, but we were surprised by, we were definitely surprised by the Wii U, and we were surprised. I want to say we were surprised by the Nintendo Switch also. Definitely surprised by it. I want to say we had very, very, I mean, I think the shortest amount of time that we had ever for the announcement of an impending Nintendo platform and its actual release. I mean, like months.
Months.
Whereas
yeah.
usually, a year to 18 months of a new, Xbox or PlayStation. Tao, anything else you want to add into this?
Just on the article real quick, I was kind of surprised with Miitopia getting over 1 million of sales this past quarter. I mean, I didn't play it back on, I think it was on the 3DS it originally came out on. And I dabbled in the demo a little bit, and it was fine. Like a little, Nintendo Use Your Me RPG. But I was just kind of surprised that it was that high, which is good. I mean, it's always good to have new franchises. I mean, you're using your own Me too, which doesn't happen a lot lately. And just to kind of go into the future, it's going to be interesting to see now that they have merged these two systems. Basically, like, are they going to keep that now, or are they going to split them apart again, like going forward? Like, they kind of have to. You think like, okay, they kind of have to. They have to, keep it like a Switch going forward now, right? I mean, maybe. I mean, this is Nintendo, so I mean, we could see, the successor to the 3DS maybe is their next big console, and they kind of just, lean on the Switch for a few more years just to get that off the ground, and then we get the next big, console, like home console, after that. You were gonna say Switch?
I was gonna say, isn't that the Switch Lite?
I mean, I guess, but
and to converge what you two are both saying, right? Like you have three choices, right? Your next cycle, you either produce a thing that's a fixed console and sits in place, and then you either keep the Switch in the product lineup or dump the Switch itself and make the Switch Lite your portable, right? I mean, you got to make one of those choices. Or you, as Tao said, you keep the same model, right? And you keep deploying. Like,
I was being facetious. I agree with Tao.
No. But I would say, but to Tao's question, right? They've got one of three choices. They either got to come over the top and go with a fixed console, and in which case, they then drop the Switch and keep the Switch Lite, or keep both and make those the portable thing. Maintain the same model, right? Vectors now, with a full size portable and a less performant portable, or you got to slide a smaller portable underneath it and upgrade the Switch. So it's an interesting conundrum, right? It's an interesting problem because their own success is going to constrain their options, right, to a certain number of variables they have to optimize for the next foot drop.
Yeah, and like Swiss said, I mean, you got Dread, which is probably would have just been a 3DS or title back in the day. I mean, you got all these Pokemon games now coming out on the Switch, and they're being built for the Switch. So it's like, okay, now what are we guys? What are we gonna do, guys? Like, what's gonna happen in the future when we, are we just gonna do Switch 2, Super Switch, Switch Pro? I mean, what's gonna happen going forward?
Well, and the frustrating thing too is, so this aberration, this abomination of an online service that is coupled to the platform has come along. I will say, I feel like the eShop has finally kind of come into its own, and the NES and Super NES has really finally become a model that I feel is a reasonably equivalent replacement to what we had on the Wii in terms of our ability to access legacy titles. But again, right, and this is what Nintendo has historically done, is when they bring the new platform, for whatever reason, they completely change the internet service model. And so they've built all this stuff on the Switch. Going back to this report, they say that its Switch online service increased over the period. And I feel like, just gut instinct, there's a stronger attach rate for that Nintendo online service to the Switch than there is for PlayStation Plus to the PlayStation. So, but again, but now what do you do, right? Quite frankly, how is Nintendo going to see fit to undo their own success of this generation and the next generation? Because it seems like that's what they constantly do.
I think what it's going to be is you're probably going to still have a Switch like we have that docks and will be 4K or whatever, right? Super Switch, Switch Pro. But they're going to do something experimental with completely revamping the Joy-Cons, and everybody's going to hate it. And that's how it's going to be their dip until they refine it again for the Switch 3 or whatever is going to come after that.
Interesting theory. All right, guys. Anything else that we want to go over tonight?
We'll get like a tripod thing, like the N64, but N64 Joy-Cons, like you just strap them on the side.
Yeah, we have to have. I think we have to have an irregularly shaped controller for the next generation. I think is the Nintendo requirement. It can't be like a standardized controller format like they had this time.
Yeah, because they had the Wii remote, and then they had that big monster, controller for the Wii U. Then they went back to simplified. So yeah, it should be yeah, maybe like an N-shaped controller or something.
All right, guys. Anything else that we want to go over tonight?
Nope.
All right, for anybody who happened to join in on the live stream, we appreciate you. For anybody out there happening to watch this video or listen to the audio format of the podcast, we appreciate you as well. Please feel free to like the video or the podcast and subscribe to the channel so you can just receive a notification whenever we post new content and a new episode. Next Pix Plays assignment. If you're not familiar with Pix Plays, we give each other a homework assignment for us all to participate in for the 2-week time period between the GX shows, and you are welcome to join in and play along with us. Multiplayer has become a staple design feature in games of the recent generations. In most cases, a given multiplayer mode changes and evolves over time, and some games don't launch with it and get it after the fact, such as the case with the title popular with some of the E2KG co-hosts, Ghost of Tsushima. Its Legends multiplayer mode was released last year, 3 months after the core game. This year, that mode releases as its own standalone title in September and gets an additional mode in Legends Rivals. Tackle any element of this news story as the assignment for the next 2 weeks. You can play a game whose multiplayer mode was added or released separately after launch. You can play a multiplayer game that had a new mode that was introduced into the game. You can play a multiplayer... You play a game with a multiplayer game or mode that has a survival variant or an asymmetric variant. Or you can play a game with a multiplayer mode that is predominantly co-op versus PvP. And then come to the show and talk about your experience and those differences. No one has selected an assignment. I had one, but backed it out because my gaming plan for next week doesn't really include anything today within that bailiwick. Towmaster is talking about playing GTA Online as that game was released, and then its online version followed it up. Swiss, any thoughts about what you're going after for this assignment?
Too bad. When season 15 launched, Destiny 2.
24th, I think it was.
24th of this month?
Well, I think it said that season 14 was ending the 24th, of August. So I'm assuming within a day or two or whatever.
Probably too late for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I know what I won't be playing, and it's going to be Legends, because I'm one of those guys that doesn't have a PS Plus subscription.
Oh, you need it for that?
You need anything for online. I just don't play online stuff on the PS4. I play it for free on the PC.
Yep.
I might add, oddly enough, Fortnite onto this too, because I did play a mode recently that was actually pretty fun, so I could talk about that also.
Well, and Fortnite itself natively fits within that model, right? It was originally planned to be a conquer the world kind of game, and then the battle royale kind of took off on its own.
Yeah.
So next week, DBQ Hams will be in the center seat as the host. All 4 of us will actually be on the podcast is the plan for right now, although life and work happen. And that will be our GX show. So it is certain to be robust, even if everybody doesn't participate and complete this assignment, which may be the case. But it should still be a pretty raucous discussion. It's been a long time since all 4 of us have been on a Gamer Experience show. So it should be pretty excellent. Without much further ado, on behalf of the E2KG network and co-hosts Swissguard and Towmaster, that's going to do it for us for tonight. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Stay safe out there. Play the games that you like and come here to talk about the games that you love. We will talk to you guys next week. Until then, good night, good luck, and good gaming. That's going to do it for us. We're out of here.